Okay, hello and welcome to another Clare GAA video special. Today we're in good form. We're reflecting on a Clare win over Wexford, a second round qualifier with Cork to look forward to on Saturday. And to reflect and look ahead, we're joined by Darach Honan, Clare GAA. And we're also making his first appearance of the year with us, Niall O'Connor, recently promoted to divisional head in the Clare backroom team. So first of all, Niall, congratulations and welcome to Darach also.
Yes, Páraic.
We'll begin, I guess, looking back. Clare progressing to the second round qualifiers, we say beating Wexford. Darach, for you, what were the standout aspects from Clare's win over?
Yeah, it was a great win. Delighted, huge win for Clare, and hopefully it'll provide a bit of a bounce now going forward. I suppose the standout thing where tactically we seemed to get it very wrong, but or to run the ball through the middle third lot. They didn't have that long out ball to the full forward line, so they were trying to play the ball through the lines, and I thought the Clare lads did really well to read that, wait for them to hit it into the middle, and then take it off them, and they scored at their ease once they had dispossessed them in that area of the field.
So Niall, obviously some people would be saying the performance of some of the Clare unsung heroes, the likes of Cathal Malone, Ryan Taylor was very noteworthy. Was there any other aspects for you that stood out from being in Central Stadium on Saturday?
Yeah, I definitely share that as well, Paddy. I think Ryan Taylor has been exceptional so far this year. Cathal Malone, exceptional. To be honest, I was really impressed by and was our two cornerbacks, Paul Flanagan and Rory Hayes. John worked the ball out. As Darach said, we worked it through the lines, and we were able. There was a passage of play. It was early in the first half. I've seen it the Sunday game again last night, where Paul hit the ball to Rory out to, I think it might have been John, to Dermot Ryan and over the bar from distance. Superb score. But for me, Clare's work rate in comparison to Wexford's was chalk and cheese. I thought Clare hunted in packs, hooked and blocked, and I think that's what really got us over the line. And to be honest, I thought we left Wexford back into the game from the 25th minute to the 40th minute, both sides of half time, and it was unforced errors that really brought Wexford back into the game. And other than that, I think we would have won the game quite comfortably, to be honest.
And Niall, sticking with yourself, just like David Reedy, Ryan Taylor, Aidan McCarthy, they all chipped in with 3 points each. Mark Rogers came off the bench and got 2 points. So, one of the criticisms maybe left at Clare last year was they were over-reliant on Tony Kelly. So do you think that reliance on Tony Kelly has slightly diluted and other players are easing the burden on it?
Certainly, and what every manager in Ireland is going to be doing now is going to be man-marking Tony Kelly. And just going back to Saturday's game, so Tony was being man-marked by one of their best defender, Shane Wreck, and then Aaron Shanahan was being picked up by Matthew Hanlon, which gave the lesser lights of the team, if you want to call them that, channels to get into that they mightn't always have got into. David was top class. I thought it was his best performance in a long time, if not ever, in the Clare jersey. Got 4 points in play, worked his socks off. Ryan Taylor got 2 points. I mentioned Shanahan being man-marked, and he still was a huge outlet going forward. Could have even had more. Cathal Malone, Cathal coming in from midfield, got 1-1, which would have never happened possibly before. Unbelievable for performance. So by Tony being marked and maybe being taken out of the game somewhat, it opened other avenues for the rest of the team.
Darach, we kind of mentioned Wexford's structure to an extent. It greatly weakened their cause early on, but maybe to put the question to you, it probably is the end of Davy Fitzgerald's tenure with Wexford. But for him as a manager at inter-county level, do you think he will have other opportunities, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, they were set up tactically. I think they didn't give themselves a chance to get a full forward line until the last 20, and McMahon and start hitting. It's more frustrating from Wexford point of view because they know that they have the players there that can do it, and they've had a lot of underage success with their 3 under-21 titles in a row, and Rory O'Connor and a few young, like Rory O'Connor could be one of the top players in Ireland, and there's others like him there that they're not fulfilling their potential under that system. We are a little old-fashioned. If he's to remain, he will have to evolve a little bit with regards to his tactics and perhaps his man management as well. But I'd say he'll probably pick up a gig somewhere. It's what he likes to do, and it's what he spends all his time doing. So there might be a county that will take him on, or that would be keen to have him on board. And kind of what he does do, in fairness, when he comes in is he increases the professionalism around the setup and organises things really well. And the first couple of years, they always get a really good bounce off his approach. But I do just think that those tactics are a little bit old-fashioned and outdated at this stage, and they're not effective in the modern game.
And obviously, the draw taking place this morning, Clare drawing against Cork, second round qualifier, which takes place on Saturday. Fixture details yet to be confirmed at the time of recording. Niall, of the two teams we could have got, Cork, Galway, which one would have been your preference?
I'm actually happy. I prefer us to be having a crack at Cork. Also, not to be looking ahead, but it looks like we'll be Cork, we're going to be getting Dublin, whereas that mightn't have been the case the other way around. So, things are falling into place, for the group if we can get over Cork. Dare I say it, it's a bit like, 2013, we got a game under our belts, we got a win, and the next thing it took off. And, a win, I actually think this weekend is huge, huge in the development of this team and Brian's team, and going forward. And I'm really happy with Cork. And I'd love him to have a cut at maybe take a punt on Rodgers or someone up front now this weekend, and maybe just an extra spark could be the difference to getting us over the line on Saturday. He looked really sharp when he came on Saturday, and as did all the other subs, might I add. But just, I'd love him to take a punt now and maybe mark, and it could be the get us over the line on Saturday, something different that Cork mightn't be expecting, if that makes sense.
Darach, from what you've seen maybe of Cork this year, what are the key areas there need to look out for at the weekend?
Yeah, Cork are kind of hard to work out so far. They had some really good games in the league, and they're kind of really focusing on the short passing game this year under O'Grady coming in. I think that from a Clare point of view, are for opportunities for them to do the same against Cork, because those lads running at our half-back line will cause problems if they get ball to hand in around midfield, half-forward line. I'm very concerned about that. But those will be two things I'll be looking out for this weekend.
And now, like we've seen with Brian Lohan, took off John Conlon at the weekend, Colm Galvin, Aaron Jenner. He's not afraid to make changes. You've said you'd like to see Mark Rodgers in. Is there any other changes? We saw Dave McInerney, Jack Brown both get a bit of game time. Is there any other changes you'd maybe recommend to Brian Lohan and the management? Yeah,
well, listen, I think Darach might have touched on it there. You'd have to be worried about Cork's pace around the middle third. So, I think David McInerney is definitely a viable option to come in, and I'd hope that would happen. But Jack Brown was really good. Like, it looked to me like he came in midfield, and I thought he was very solid. Distributed the ball very well, didn't waste any ball, and I'd have no problem either of them, if not both of them, coming in. I suppose you want to hold one or two as well off the bench. 70-minute game, probably going to be really warm again the weekend, or middle of July or late July. It's going to be really warm, so we do have options. So Jack and Davy Mack and Mark would definitely be ones I'd like to see. As I mentioned already, I thought Jack really held on to the ball when we needed it and made the right decision when it was needed in the last couple of minutes. And you mentioned Tony there already, and listen, he could crack on again now this weekend. At the end of the day, Tony Kelly is a serious team player. He was the one that made the hook and turned it over from chin over the bar at a vital time, and he was the one that was back in the line with a minute to go, caught the ball and got it out and delivered it. And I think it ended up with us getting a goal down or a point down the other side. So, we still have a lot of improvement on last Saturday's performance. That's the great thing. But to answer your question, we need pace to deal with this Cork team the weekend. And Davy Mack would seem the most realistic option when you're looking at that sort of thing.
And Darach, Niall mentioned it earlier on that we're not looking ahead too far ahead, but get over Cork, you're in Dublin, and that's possibly the easier side of the draw. So does that just stress the importance of winning this weekend for, to open up players' chances of progressing in this championship?
Yeah, I think, if you beat Cork this weekend, and I think like Cork will be at a higher level than Dublin, in my opinion. So if you can beat Cork this weekend, I think I'd be very, very confident going into the Dublin game. I think against Cork, I'm not as confident, but I haven't fully worked out what I'm thinking yet. Would we be playing Kilkenny then, or would we be playing Limerick if we were to get really ahead of ourselves and beat Dublin?
There would be an open draw then for the semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, like if you could beat Cork and you could draw Dublin and possibly Kilkenny, like there's a really good route to the All-Ireland final there, and it's all about getting over this weekend first.
Getting excited, Honan.
I am, absolutely. I'll have the bunting out.
The Gosling's bus could be back yet.
There's a toll of games potentially building up. Like, what sort of an impact would that have, Niall, from, I suppose, logistics management point of view, and trying to not do too much in training in a week and bring in changes, but also doing enough to keep ticking over?
Yeah, like even if you just look at it this weekend, Paddy, we're discussing it coming back from Thurles on Saturday, right? So Clare have 3 games played now, performed quite well in all 3 games. Cork have only played 1 game, so there's a balancing act for, okay, fair enough, Clare would end up having a high total of games in a few weeks' time. But even if you just look at this weekend's game, like Cork are coming in probably not knowing exactly where they're at, whereas Clare are very much know where they're at now. And so I think just looking at it in the very short term, I think it's advantage Clare. Obviously, if we get over Cork, then obviously it will start taking its toll, and it could be a big challenge against Dublin. If we were to get over the weekend, a big win, trying to get the lads back, their feet back in the ground very fast for it. And correct me if I'm wrong, we're out again 7 days later. That's when it will hamper. But in terms of this weekend, I don't see it being anything. But if anything, it could be a positive this weekend, is what I was trying to say there. But if we get over this weekend, that's when it could catch up with us. But hopefully not. That's my opinion on it anyway. I think Cork could be coming into this a bit cold, a bit unknown. Played well at stages in the Limerick game, but I'd say they still have a lot of question marks over where exactly they're at in the development this year.
I think that the impact of the bench at the weekend will be key there as well. Like they will start wearing the legs, and the intensity, the heat must have taken it out of the lads. But like for Lohan to have such a positive impact from the lads who came on will be really encouraging. And there's other guys on that panel there as well that mightn't have necessarily played at the weekend, like Davy Fitzgerald and players like that who could add something as well. So the strength of the panel will really be tested with this game on game, week on week format, and hopefully the signs from our bench at the weekend is a positive one for that.
Briefly touching on other games of the weekend, Limerick, of course, retaining their crown as Munster champions. Kilkenny, Brian Cody, Kings of Leinster once again. Darach, is the championship, maybe you might have been saying it in the first half of Peeve, it's anyone's championship to win, but did Limerick's second half rubber stamp their reputation as the top team to beat?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think Limerick are a class apart from the rest from teams in the country. I think any other team in the country could beat each other and could be very competitive on their best days. But Limerick on their best day, in my opinion, are unbeatable, unfortunately. And it pains me to say it because I'm in such close proximity to them down here. But I think in order for Limerick to be beaten, they have to have an off day. And like we saw yesterday with Tip, they had an off day and they still won by, what was it? I can't remember what it was, 4 or 5 for finish. But so like they have to have an off day, and I think you have to have probably your best day in order to get over the line. Probably Galway might be a team that could put it up to the most because Limerick are so athletically strong. They're such athletes. I think Galway probably would be the only team that could match them in terms of athletic ability. And they might give them the best game, but hopefully they might take them out for us down the line.
And Niall, would you, from what you've seen, would you agree with those rankings in terms of the top teams to beat?
Yeah, Paddy, what Limerick did in the second half yesterday, Jesus, as long as I'm watching hurling, whatever long it is, it was as good a performance of, or a half of hurling that I've ever seen. You know, it was unbelievable, really. Like when you actually think about what were they 10 points down, and our that goal from Mark Yo, which probably be realistic, probably wouldn't have happened if they weren't as much ahead. So like they really turned the whole thing on its head. They absolutely blitzed Tipperary in the second half in a performance for the ages, really. You know, and you think about the squad that they have now, even and not good for us for tonight that they kept their 20s in reserve, who were more than good enough to be out in that field yesterday. You know, they just have so many players coming that they can use at any one time. You know, when you're leaving off Aaron Gillan and Dan Morrissey, you know, it just speaks volumes of where they're at the moment, you know. And like them two lads came on, I know, and got them over the line, but Jesus, they're just on a different level at the moment. And I'd agree with Darach. Galway probably realistically are the only team that I can see troubling them at the moment. And yeah, it's on athleticism, but also Galway do have a panel or the players to hurt them, where, you know, collective players, whereas, you know, other teams might be relying on 3 or 4, whereas Galway and Limerick do have a panel or a 7 or 8 key players.
Limerick have the advantage as well of having such a strong management team, like where they'd made a few adjustments at half time. They became a lot more defensive, really. I think they they kept their structure at the back a lot more, and they brought their half forward lines back into the play. And Tipperary, I thought foolishly somewhat, they followed them up the field and left themselves exposed at the back. So those few tweaks at half time just changed the momentum of the game. One, I suppose, glimpse of hope that we might cling to would be the fact that discipline might be an issue for them, in that Aaron Gillan probably should have seen the line yesterday. And I know that a couple of other players, Hegarty and Flanagan, have been lucky in their last 2 games not to pick up yellows and possible reds as well. So that would be one thing I think that Limerick will have to look out for. You know, if they were to lose a key player to a red card in All-Ireland final or All-Ireland semi-final, it might be enough to turn the momentum of the game.
Niall, obviously one of the points just referenced there was Limerick's strength of their panel and conveyor belt of players coming through. And I suppose it brings us on to last Wednesday in Thurles, Clare Minor suffering a 40-point defeat to Cork. Obviously a lot of work went into that panel this year and not the outcome they wanted, but it would maybe make you slightly worried about the future of Clare GAA if, you know, we're going to be suffering results like that and having less players coming through to senior standard.
Yeah, it was really it was a sobering night, sobering result. You know, I do want to point out that that's a really good management team. You know, really good people that have a very good track record in Clare and beyond over the last couple of years. But unfortunately, you know, I just feel that particular group were left out in the cold over the last probably 2 years, if not longer, you know, and the proof is in the pudding then on Wednesday night. You compare to Cork, who probably throughout all of lockdown and prior to it have been aiming for this night for probably 4 years, whereas, you know, we probably started preparing when that management was put in place. What was it, last November, December? You know, I believe they done over 114 training sessions. You know, the lads threw the kitchen sink at it, but they were just playing catch up from the very off. And yeah, you'd have to be worried, Paddy. You'd have to be worried about the whole structures we have in place at the moment. You know, and somebody needs to grab the bull by the horn and actually look at it coldly and go, guys, we need to do something here and we need to do it fast. I would hope that the Strategic Review Committee will come back in September and put the platforms and the structures in place that'll ensure that we don't have nights like that again. But, you know, people need to, one thing I'll say is it can't be, you know, if somebody says there's an issue here, you have to take it on the chin and go, there is a problem here, and let's sort of not, you know, put our heads in the sand and blame others. And, you know, if someone gives an opinion, it's an opinion and it has to be taken on board. It's not abuse. It's not anything like that. We just need to look at it reflect and go, what can we do to make this better and make Clare hurling better, you know? And it's not in a good place underage at the moment, but it'll return when people get around the table and put structures in place. And all you have to do is look at Cork, what they're doing now. Cork are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming years. Limerick, we've already discussed them, you know. Dublin, Kilkenny, you know, we're way behind them. Even Offaly, we're way behind these counties, and we just need to accept that, you know.
And Darach, to yourself, what would your own thoughts be on it?
Yeah, there was a sobering night. The result came in. I thought I was actually reading Twitter wrong when I saw it, and it was a huge shock because awful night for the kids involved. They're young kids, and Niall has pointed out that they haven't been supported properly in their development, and that's hugely disappointing for them. I'm sure there's a lot of talent, and there has to be talent because a failing like that, a hammering like that, isn't as a result of players available always. It has to be structural failure, and I think our underage structures are just not good enough at the moment to support the management that are putting in huge time and effort into coaching these kids, and just not getting the support that they deserve from the county board. And I think it's pretty obvious the change is needed at county board executive level at the moment. I think most people in the county are aware of that, and we need to freshen things up and get people working together again, not be so divisive, and put some good structure in place and support the people that need to be supported.
On that note, we'll leave it there. Slightly more optimistic when we're looking at the seniors. Niall referencing there's a feeling of 2013, so keep an eye on Bunratty if he's gone down looking for dolphins just to get all the signs. Once again, thanks very much to Darach Honan and to Niall O'Connor for their analysis. Darach will be giving his verdict. He's slightly on the fence at the minute. He's do a bit more homework, but he'll have his verdict in Thursday's Clare GAA, so hold off on putting the house on the result until then.
You can take it as gospel anyway, Páraic, when it comes in.
Darach and Niall, and hopefully we'll be reporting on positive outcome for Clare hurling at the weekend.